We're beginning. Yeah.
The motion for the House, as you know, this House believes that the Indian news media has breached the trust of the Indian citizen. This is something very much which has been in debate and discussion, people writing in the press, or you've had these debates that have happened on TV, in the different news channels. For us here at the law school, the very close way in which this happened is when we had an incident in October 2012, and we had the media hounding us, wanting information that was of a confidential nature, and then the reporting, which was so sensationalized, sometimes even doing things that the court has forbidden them from doing. All of this, which got us, along with the other things that have been there very much in the front of all of us in our country for the last few months, got us thinking about the fact that the media somewhere in the context of possibly liberalization lost sight of what its responsibilities are. We don't want censorship on the one hand. On the other hand, it seems like the media is actually betraying the confidence of the Indian citizen here by not reporting or not reporting accurately, and very often not reporting things that are of significance or importance to the average citizen of India, and sensationalizing things that seem to be so trivial or consumerist in character, or sensationalizing things which are of a very personal and confidential nature. So it's some of these things which we thought should be debated, and we should hear what the media itself has got to say, what is their position on this. It is in this context that we've come up with the theme for discussion today, that this House believes that the Indian news media has breached the trust of the Indian citizen. So what is our expectation from the panel today? One, to kind of set the ball rolling, taking up some of these concerns, to kind of clarify some of the issues, so that when the debate itself begins, we have the foundation from which we can go on to taking up the specifics and singling out possibly particular incidents that have been reported. And here it's more in terms of what do we expect from the media, what is the role that we think that the media should play, and on the other hand is what does the media think that its role should be as well. So with that, we will begin this panel discussion. I'm Elizabeth, professor here at the National Law School. My co-moderator is Mr. Anil Sebastian, student of the third year BA LLB Honours. He'll now take over.
Thank you, Professor Elizabeth. Professor Elizabeth has given you a picture of how our own views about the media have indeed been shaped to a large extent by our personal experiences. But at the same time, we also recognize that it shouldn't be only these personal experiences, but a deeper understanding that shapes our views about this issue. And it's with this intent of laying down this deeper understanding that we are hoping that today's panel discussion will set a solid, balanced foundation from which the subsequent debate can take off. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the speakers that we have got for the panel discussion towards meeting this end. The first member of the panel that I have the pleasure of introducing is Mr. Jacob Applebaum. Mr. Applebaum is an independent computer security researcher and hacker who is most famous for his association with the Tor project, as well as being for a representative of the WikiLeaks project. We are hoping that his extensive experience with these controversial issues will enable him to give us an insight into the idea of the very fundamental notion of freedom within the media. And we are hoping that he will bring his insightful experiences in this regard, including his experiences of being chased by law enforcement agencies across the world, as we understand it, into this motion to give us a foundation of how the media has a role in protecting the freedom of society. Joining him on the panel is Professor G. Haragopal. A renowned academic and a human rights activist, Professor Haragopal is a former professor in political science of the Central University, Hyderabad, and has vast experience in a variety of human rights and civil liberties issues. We have no doubt that his deep experience will also contribute immensely towards presenting an angle of how the media has a role to play with regard to these issues. The third member of the panel, who will also be moderating the panel, is Mr. Siddharth Narayan. An alumnus of the National Law School as well as the Asian College of Journalism, Mr. Narayan has extensive experience working on the field in the area of media. He has been a journalist for the Frontline magazine as well as the Hindu newspaper. He is also keenly interested in issues that relate to gender and sexuality, media laws, and the idea of censoring the media. With these brief introductions, may I now invite the panelists to take over the stage.
I'm honored to be here at the order that we'll go by is we'll start with Professor Hargopal, and then I will speak, and then Jacob. So I'll start without any further ado. So invite Professor Hargopal to start.
And share some of my experiences both with the electronic media and print media. While experience can be very subjective, I am not alone in this experience. I have several friends who had similar experiences. But I am trying to focus not what happens in everyday situation, but what happens in a crisis and how media reacts to a social crisis. I have 3 experiences. There's not much of time to elaborate. Even earlier when I spoke on 2 abductions, law students are aware that what type of experience we had with the media. But I would just briefly repeat what experience we had. Because crisis can be one of the indicators of the crisis of the media. How it handles a social crisis is an extremely important vantage point from which you can look at the media experience. In 1993, there was an abduction of 7 officers, 1 IAS officer, 1 MLA, and myself, Kanabhiran, were requested by the government to mediate and somehow get the officers. It took us an operation of 3 weeks. And the situation was extremely complex. And I don't have time to narrate the whole thing, but I'll just point out one incident that we met the squad and spent a lot of time in persuading them that there should not be any loss of human life. And after they promised, the Inspector General of Police was extremely adamant, in spite of advice from Hyderabad and the Chief Minister advising. In spite of that, he was very adamant. Both of us went and spent a lot of time, and we said that if you want to avert loss of human life, you have to help us. Right? And after that, we held a press conference. And we told the media that since the problem is about to be resolved, in order to create both public opinion and public confidence in the resolution of the conflict, please report that the problem is going to be resolved very soon. We personally requested them in the conference. Next day, in the newspapers, the front news headlines, Hilak may be bombarded at any time, life of civil liberties leaders in danger. We were really taken aback. And we were the people who were in the midst of the situation. We were handling the situation. Perhaps we knew the situation better than many others. But when we asked the reporters, they said, no, sir, whatever, see, you have said, we have reported. But in Hyderabad, the newspapers changed the whole thing, and they have put this Hilak may be bombarded at any time. Now, see, why it happened even today, it's a puzzle to me. But it did happen, and families were worried. Families of the, these hostages were terribly worried. In fact, one person who abducted was a sugar patient, diabetic, and his wife was on a hunger strike. And when we came out, the situation was, when we went there, they thought the whole situation has improved, and they were jubilant, and they said, civil liberties leaders have come and things will be solved, and we assured the families. But the trauma that people suffered and the public confidence that suffered is somebody answerable? You can't put the society to this type of trauma when the situation on the ground does not warrant it. I think this is one. The second incident was abduction of the district collector in Orissa. And Kanabharan was no more, so I was handling the situation. And I spoke to the Maoists at one point and said some demands have been considered, but so you have to release. Since you called us to negotiate, you have to release the collector. So after that they agreed, and then I said 24 hours you must release. They said, sir, please say that only 48 hours because we are 800 kilometers away, the track is very rough, and therefore please don't promise 24 hours. Please tell the media 48 hours. We came out and we narrated this to the press, and we also said in 48 hours collector will be released. After 15 minutes, believe me, 15 minutes, one electronic channel said collector returned and reached home. I was stunned. We debated 24 hours, they said it's not possible. And then, then one after the media picked up. It picked up so fast, 100 channels started saying that collector returned, and crackers, sweet distribution, congratulatory messages, to me, and I was so embarrassed. And they started coming and said, I said 24 hours, it is 48 hours, 48 hours. Absolutely, on this, I am very sure. They said, we have seen the collector. One fellow said, we have seen him eating the breakfast. I said, you must have seen, but my information is 48 hours. Now, in fact, knowing the media and having some experience with the media, I didn't give in. If I had given in and said that collector has been released, I think my public position would have suffered permanently. Now, this entire jubilation and all that, next day morning, collector has not come. And people started saying, what happened? And the media reported. People started asking me. I said, I told you 48 hours, it is 48 hours. And if the media announced it is and even Hindu committed the mistake. Hindu also next day said collector returns. Normally Hindu cross-checks, normally it cross-checks and we trust that paper because it reports more responsibly. But they also were led with this massive information. They also thought they will be lagging behind if they report, and they didn't even cross-check with us. They didn't cross-check. It really has the collector come out? No. Now, the third abduction in Chhattisgarh, it was a very tough negotiation, very tough. You know the Chhattisgarh situation and all that. But anyway, with a lot of difficulty, almost 12 days we took, and we had to really put all our moral pressure, B.D. Sharma, myself, when we met the squad, we said, BJP government will not concede. They are not in no mood. In fact, the DGP said, when we met the Chief Minister, DGP said, when police officers are losing life, why not IAS officers? Let's sacrifice 10, 12 IAS officers. This was the mood. So we told them that government is in no mood, and if you take any action, that will completely, backfire. I mean, as your friends, if you think that you have to trust, take it from us that you have to release the collector. There is no option. And if you think it is a defeat, accept it. And finally, second time again we had to go persuade them and brought the collector. When we brought the collector, we handed over the collector to the family, then we addressed a press conference. The first question from electronic media is, how much of money changed hands? See, I was shocked. How much of money changed hands? And they have circulated a sort of news. We first in helicopter when we went, we carried 50 crores and Maoists were not happy. Then again 50 crores, still they were not happy. This is the information. And I became so angry. I told the channel that I am so sorry that you are doubting our bona fides. But this B.D. Sharma has taken 1 rupee salary when he was a commissioner of SC/ST. He lives in a slum. You think at this age we take money and we do this type of activity? And I said that, have you shown Bastar tribal even once on your channels? I want to ask. When we interviewed in Bastar, has any electronic channel, I am asking the law university, have you seen a Bastar tribal on any of the electronic channels last 10 years? Have they shown any, farmer who committed suicide and debated? At least print media partly debated, thanks to Sainath and Hindu, at least it has been come out. Now I think, see, this experience is one. And last 4 days, I am passing through trauma. Yesterday, almost I had a sleepless night because of this electronic channel. You go there to present a point of view. And you know, times now, see, it's very difficult to say personally, but I think all of us agree, because this is one point on which everybody is agreeing something wrong with the times now. With lot of, I have decided not to go, but the one person who was with us in Chhattisgarh, poor chap, he said, I'm a small employee, there is a lot of pressure, please come. This is my personal request. And he was so, and then I said, all right, he's a small employee. I went. And I told him that tell your channel that to be a little moderate, and after all, we are academics, I can't, go on taking on, it's a third degree methods, like something like interrogation of an accused. So at one stage I said that we have to go into the causes of what is happening in Chhattisgarh. Then they said, what do you mean by causes? What is this causes you are talking? Then I said, look, I am also an academic. And I am interested in the causation. I understand a phenomenon. I try to understand a phenomenon in its larger context. Right? And then he said, academic should be very objective. I said, there is no objectivity, neither in the media nor in the academic. We have a value framework. We are committed to certain values, and from that vantage point, we look at a phenomenon. Pro-capital, pro-labor, these are all, the things known. People, some are pro-capital, some are pro-labor. Now, there is nothing like neutrality between capital and labor, between landlord and agricultural labor, between man and woman, between Dalit and upper caste. There is nothing like neutrality. You have to take a position. I said, Gunnar Myrdal said, objectivity is not possible and not desirable in his book. Then he says, don't quote foreign authors. I also read foreign authors. Do you know Durkheim? What is this? The debate is on Chhattisgarh. Not debate between whether you read or I read. In the break, I coolly left the channel. And yesterday, in the NDTV, I was on Hindi channel, and I was trying to explain the development model and the crisis of the neoliberal model, how it is making, inroads into the mining sector, and what happened in the entire tribal belt, and how tribals are marginalized in the entire neoliberal model. One person who is participating, a Shiv Sena activist, I think joined Congress, he said, to my utter surprise, आपका ऐसा बात करने के लिए शर्म नहीं आता? I have never in my entire life, I don't think I have ever got this type of abuse from somebody. I said, आप शर्म का बात क्या कर रहे? शर्म नहीं है तुम लोगों को. And anchor does not moderate. Anchor does not say, this is not the language in the media. I am an academic, maybe I am an activist. But where is the scope for this language, and why this language? It has to be healthy debate. The debate is for what? What is the purpose? This purposeless trial of the persons on the electronic media is something so counterproductive. It doesn't, sensitize people. It doesn't raise level of your comprehension. It doesn't help you in clarifying issues. Function of media is to clarify to the people their confused experience. Because I have experience, but I am confused. As a common man, I don't understand the causal relation, interconnection. Media should help me in getting some clarity, so that the overall awareness of the society, democratic awareness, goes up. But you can't further confuse the people. Now, therefore, I think, these experiences, even in a crisis, they are not concerned about the human life, loss of human life. And when somebody has done something, negotiating and bringing the collector, what do you expect? No, I expect as an activist, they would say that good, you brought the collector, we are all very happy that you have averted, a major this one. This is the minimum that you expect from media to somebody who took a risk, whatever risk we have taken. But you don't expect that you carried money. And in Orissa, they filed a case. They filed a case that we have taken 50 crores from the government, and they said Naveen Patnaik bribed. And then later they said that Naveen Patnaik staged the entire drama, kidnap is a drama, interlocutors is a drama, and the whole thing has been played because they want to divert the attention of the assembly to an issue, and he escaped the entire assembly assault just because he played this drama. And Orissa media went, God, with this type of story. People are going on ringing up, sir, there is a case filed in there is a FIR against me and against R.S. Rao, of course, who passed away. What is the FIR? These fellows have come, they have taken a lot of money from the government and they have passed on. The whole thing should be invested by CBI. I do not know. See, this whole, culture of the media, I think is something which warrants a serious, if you say that is a breach of trust, it is definitely a breach of trust if one has to go by these experiences. But I will just narrate about the print media. I have stopped writing column to 4 newspapers. I used to write a column for Indian Express. Of course, they publish very critical pieces on police and all that. My father died because of the neglect of a doctor. And I wrote a piece, my father's death. And Indian Express said that, sir, this piece we can't publish. I said, why? They said, since you blamed the hospital. I didn't even name the hospital. I said, this hospital is named after a spiritual leader of India. This is what I have written so that I can take care. They said, no article can be published against hospital because we get extensive advertisement from the hospital. Yeah, right. We get extensive advertisements from the hospitals. And I wrote an article critiquing cinema to another Telugu newspaper, which was very widely circulated. They said, sir, we will not publish anything on cinema because we get lot of advertisement from cinema. Right. And one of the proprietors of a newspaper came to a college of journalism where both of us participated. Then I said, this is the experience with media. Media doesn't seem to enjoy any freedom. And whose freedom are we talking? Is the proprietor, editor, reporter or reader? Whose freedom are we talking? And if it is the freedom of the proprietor, I said, that's not freedom of press at all. This is what I said. He got up and said, no, we have been writing so much against the government and all that. I said, have you written against Chief Minister? You, completely excluded Chief Minister, you are blaming the government, which is abstract. Right. Then he made one interesting point. I will make this point and stop. He said, he got up and said, yes, I stand corrected. He said, for my newspaper, how much of money you give? He asked me. You give 2.5 rupees, 3 rupees? How much does it cost to produce a newspaper? He said, per newspaper it's 10 rupees. And he said, asked me, where from that 8 rupees come? 4 rupees from the government, 4 rupees from advertisement. How can you demand 100% freedom when you are giving me only 2 rupees out of 10? That means the freedom can be only 20%. Media freedom is not only a freedom from the state, freedom from the market. See, that's much bigger issue. Freedom from the market and market forces. Taking on market forces is an extremely difficult situation as we are facing. Since I have these experience, now I write a column to a newspaper, and in my first column I wrote my experience of writing column, and I said this newspaper also at some point may stop publishing, and I will stop. The minute they will not publish, I will stop, as I did in the earlier newspaper. Till now, of course, they are publishing. They are sometimes feeling embarrassed, sometimes they are saying more. I said no. If you make one correction, I will stop. And since the paper is a little popular, this column is a little then selling, so the proprietor also is feeling if he stops, then there will be a problem, because lots of people say that this column is very interesting because he writes on contemporary issues. But this freedom of media, I'll just conclude, freedom of the media is not a part of the constitutional guarantee. What constitution guarantees is the freedom of the citizen. And this freedom is a borrowed freedom of the citizen. And if you do not protect the freedoms of the citizen, I think media is committing suicide. Because the curtailment of the freedom of the citizens will logically lead to the curtailment of the freedom of the mass, freedom of the media. And somewhere media is thinking that it is so autonomous from the society and from the people that they think that they can shape the public opinion. No! Chandrababu Naidu was projected as a prime minister. He got defeated. He believed when I talked to him, he said, 2020, nobody can touch me. And I told him, next election you are losing. He said, you are a friend, but still you people are cynical. But he lost. Media built such an image. Wherever I have gone in India, they were saying that, we want chief minister like Chandrababu Naidu. It's a media image. That was not the people's image. And fortunately, large number of people don't read the newspapers or don't take the newspaper seriously, maybe still nation is safe. Because one of our Telugu poets said that what is the secret of your health? He said, I don't read newspapers. And when somebody is asked how you are still thinking, I don't see the electronic channels, because they are completely bombarding the people. I think healthy debate, I think there is a representative media. I think this is high time to protect Indian democracy, promote. I think the popular causes and people suffering has to find a place. Because ultimately social reality is going to be shaped by the masses.